tomorrow's game is 6 o'clock. SEC Network. I think it's 6 p.m. ESPN, yes, thank you. That's 6 o'clock still.
Okay.
I'm more worried about the time.
Okay. All right, we get back into conference play and playing against a very talented Georgia team. I was just watching some of their games, and they're very, very talented with size, athletic ability. Guys could really shoot the basketball. They scored 98 points, I think, on Texas, a common opponent that we played. And before that, they played at LSU and played them really well. So Tom Crean is coming in there, and I think he's kind of shot an injection of enthusiasm, and they're playing a different way they have in the past. So it's going to be should be a great ball game, great contest. I feel like our defense is really starting to really pick it up. I think in the last few games you can just see, the game against Missouri. I think we held them to 1 point in the last 4.5 minutes, and then of course Texas Tech, tough loss. Just didn't execute going down the stretch, but they don't score a field goal for the last 7 minutes. So that just tells me our guys are starting to really become that unit that you got to be on defense, and I think that's giving us an opportunity to win games, especially on the road. But I think this team is getting better. I said at the beginning of January they'll be different at the end of January, and so going into February you want to continue to hopefully put it all together offensively and defensively and play some of our better basketball. Again, Georgia, very talented basketball team.
Well, hello, well, hello, well, hello. It's our Tuesday edition of On the Air with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. As we come to you live, I remember the call letters today. KDSJ 479. We're here each and every day from 1 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. And got a big show planned, but we let you hear audio to get you guys ready for tonight's 6 p.m. tip-off. Arkansas Razorbacks host the Georgia Bulldogs tonight in Bud Walton Arena. That game will be televised on the ESPN 6 p.m. tip-off. But we let you hear audio from Coach Mike Anderson, getting you guys ready. As I said, he talked a little bit about what they have to do. You know, he's feeling a little good with this basketball team. Each and every day is a step in the right direction when you talk to Coach, both at the media and just out about town. I think Coach really feels good. Big win. It's going to be a big game tonight, Arkansas and Georgia. And to get you guys ready, we're going to have Scotty Borderland. Once again, time to talk Fastest 40. We're going to talk keys to tonight's game with Scotty and just see what he thinks has to take place for Arkansas to get their third conference win and get back into the win column and start getting themselves ready for this stretch run of the SEC. With about 6 weeks to go, and then we're going to continue on talking the Fastest 40 with Kevin McPherson. It's time to talk Fastest 40 keys and also some recruiting. We'll see how Arkansas is doing out on the recruiting front. I know they're going to be looking for bigs and possible point guard or two. We'll find out some of the names that Kevin knows about, just where Arkansas sits. And then we're going to come in with a little audio from our good buddy and former Arkansas Razorback, New England Patriot, Trey Flowers. Had a chance to catch up with Trey at the NFL Super Bowl media days, and we'll find out. Trey had a little song he wanted to sing for everybody just to let everyone know he hadn't forgotten it, and we'll let you hear what that song is. But coming back, I want to come in with my good buddy Demetrius. What's going on, my man?
Not much, man. Enjoying the day.
I did get the call letters right today.
You did. I was proud of you for that. You had me a little shook yesterday.
So we got on Scotty. How big is this game in your opinion? Tonight, Arkansas hosting the Georgia Bulldogs, 6 p.m. in Bud Walton Arena, televised by ESPNU. How big is this game, Demetrius, in your opinion?
It's huge. You know, you look, you just said it, ESPNU, so you know it's going to be a big televised game. And it's going to be one that a lot of people have a lot of chance to tune in and watch. You know, I think it's really a big game for Arkansas Razorbacks being back at home. And then coming off a close loss to Texas Tech, I think it's really going to be big to really get another W, especially in SEC play.
How much pressure if you're the men's basketball team is put on you with the women now making this run at 16-5, 5-2 in the conference? You know, there's a lot of grumblings amongst the fan base throughout the state of Arkansas. You know, some reasons, you know, warranted, some maybe not. You know, I'm of the belief, I'm still there in the middle. I think this team still has a lot of growth, and I do think, you know, they're going to get better. I see it each and every time out. Unfortunately, they still have not figured out the free throw problem. I think they have to be a better closeout team on the three-pointers, as they're giving up letting teams shoot a high clip. I think over 43% on the year. That has to get a lot better for this team to turn the corner. But we caught up with Georgia coach Tom Crean. Tom's going to give us his take on Coach Anderson and that ball club. He's got quite a few things to say about a couple of the guys. We'll let you hear what he has to say. And then following up Coach Crean, time to talk fastest 40. Scotty Borderland from the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. He'll follow. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
They keep bringing aggressive pressure, so they'll run at the ball. I mean, they'll just leave their man and attack the ball. So if we're not good with the dribble, and if we're not basically being on the drive and looking for the drive and kick, looking for the straight line drive, that'll play right into their hands. They can do a lot of things. They can take a lot of chances because they have such a good inside player, shot blocking presence, length presence, and Daniel Gafford. And they have other players, Reggie Chaney, people like that are really quick and aggressive and tough. Chaney might be one of the better defenders in our league. So to me, there's not many weaknesses there. I mean, there's not many things you look at and say, okay, we can get away with this. It's another one of these games where the margin for error is going to be extremely low. We can't go into an environment like that and give up live ball turnovers the way that we have. And at the same time, we can't come down and fall into some type of trap of trying to create offense that's not there because there's too much length, there's too much physicality. They shoot the ball extremely well. Isaiah Joe is one of the better shooters, one of the better pure shooters we will have seen anywhere. Certainly one of the best in our league. And I got a lot of respect for Mike Anderson. I've been coaching against him since I was at Marquette and he was at UAB, and haven't gone against him in a while, but I know what level of intensity, what level of stick-to-itiveness, and most importantly, they're one of those teams when you talk about you got to play harder longer, they are the epitome of that. They play hard for a very long time.
Have you been in this arena? Have you coached in this arena?
Never have. Another arena that I've never coached in, so no.
What's the availability of Jordan Harrison as Rayshon Fine?
Rayshon is better. Fine, I wouldn't go with yet, but better. I don't anticipate Jordan Harris tomorrow, so we'll hopefully that'll keep getting better. There's no way to really we'll definitely treat.
Welcome back to our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, as we come to you each and every day here on KDSJ 479, and we'll let you hear audio from Georgia head coach Tom Crean previewing their travel ball game here at Fayetteville, Arkansas, to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks tonight at 6 p.m. on ESPNU. And we thought we'd give you even more fastest 40 updates and keys to tonight's ball game with our good buddy of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Scotty Borderland. Scotty, welcome back to OTH, my brother.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing very good. What are your keys, Scotty? We had a chance to meet with Coach Anderson to get takes on this past game versus Texas Tech, and looking ahead to this SEC contest. Hopefully you get that third victory. What are some things that you took away from yesterday's availability from Coach Anderson heading into tonight's ball game?
I think the big thing that I took away from yesterday is that Mike is still confident that this team can kind of put together a run. Yesterday in the story that I wrote on our site, Arkansas's next 5 games, out of those 5 games, 4 of them are against teams that are, I think, outside the KenPom top 85, so they're very manageable. I think 3 of those games are on the road, but the fact that some of those teams maybe aren't as obviously not as good as like LSU, Ole Miss, and Tennessee are, I think that gives you a chance to maybe regain some footing in the SEC standings. And I think the big key, I think, for tonight is I think Arkansas has got to keep playing good pressure-oriented defense like they have the last 2 games. In Georgia, I was looking up some stuff on them yesterday. They turn the ball. They have the highest turnover rate of any team in a Power 5 conference. So I think that kind of plays into Arkansas's favor a little bit, considering Arkansas's turned the last 2 games they played over 45 times. I think that could give Arkansas an advantage tonight.
When you go back to last year's game, 80-77, double overtime win in Athens, 2 vastly different teams. Georgia also with a new coach under Tom Crean, different system. Coming in here, Tom Crean, I think there's been a note he's never played in Bud Walton Arena. This will be his first trip to Fayetteville. What do you expect from a Tom Crean basketball team tonight, heading into Bud Walton?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a pretty up and down game tonight. I watched a little bit of the Georgia-Texas game on Saturday, and those two teams were, I think it was like 45-45 or 46-46 at halftime. So those two teams really like to push the pace. And, we've seen Texas already this year, but we haven't seen a whole lot of Georgia. Georgia kind of fell off my radar a little bit after they lost by 46 to Tennessee. I think a lot of people did the same, but Georgia's going to get out and run. They do have a tendency to turn the ball over, like I said, so that kind of favors Arkansas a little bit. I think you have to key in on Tyree Crump. He was, I think, 6 of 8. He was 6 of 8 from 3 against Texas the other night. I think he struggled in the games before playing Texas. And then Georgia's got a couple of guys, Derek Obede and Nicholas Claxton, who could be a handful. Claxton, I think, is 6'11". He's like Daniel Gafford size. I don't think he's got the build of Daniel Gafford as far as maybe his frame goes. But he's a guy that can, at 6'11", bring the ball to the floor and kind of initiate the offense. So I'm expecting a really up and down game, and I think those are the guys, those 3 guys you have to pay close attention to tonight.
Coach A talks about the depth of this basketball team. He spoke on it in preseason media day, and continues, Scotty, each and every press conference to talk about that depth. I was looking at some of the top 10 basketball teams in the country, and the guys on those teams average anywhere from 12 to 30 minutes. Arkansas has 9 kids, and I think on those teams there was at least 7 to 9 players in that rotation. Arkansas seems to be doing that, but they're just really, really young. It shows a lot of consistency when you can play that 12 or more minutes, the belief that your coach has in you. Are you starting to see more of what Coach A talks about the growth of this bench, and in particular, this young basketball team like Isaiah Joe? He talks a lot about Keyshawn, Desi Seals, Reggie Chaney, those guys. Are you starting to see the maturation take place each and every game?
Yeah, I think so, and I think we're going to continue to see that growth. They're less than a month into their first run through the SEC, and then you also throw in a game against the top 15 team on the road in a pretty hostile environment at Texas Tech. So they're having to grow up kind of on the run and pretty fast. I've written about Reggie Chaney a lot in the last month. I think his growth has been a big plus for Arkansas. I think he's going to continue to see his minutes rise. Like Keyshawn Simpson is a guy that I think Mike is starting to trust a little bit more.
Right.
On Saturday, he played, I think, 25 or 26 minutes, which is, I think it's pretty telling that he likes what Keyshawn brings. I think more so on the defensive end, because he's kind of struggled with his jumper a little bit. He had a good game against Ole Miss. He led the team in scoring, but he's not been super consistent offensively with that shot. So he's seeing the floor a lot because of what he brings defensively. He's pretty good with his feet. Hands are pretty active. And then Gabe, he can just, him, I wrote the other day, Gabe was a part of what I thought was a pretty impressive run for Arkansas defensively. I think Arkansas, after Dan went out with foul trouble in the first half, I think there was about 10 minutes left, Gabe came in, him and Adrio, and a couple of the bench guards. They just kind of led I think it was like a nine-possession sequence where they turned Texas Tech over 6 times and just kind of kept Texas Tech's offense at bay and ended up with a halftime lead. So those bench guys are very important. That depth, obviously. If you play pressure-oriented defense, guys are going to get tired at some point. So you got to have guys come off the bench that can kind of maintain that intensity. And I think over the last 2 games we've seen that.
This team has created 160 steals. Here over the last 2 to 3 games, multiple turnovers. I believe he had 24 against Missouri, another 20-plus versus Texas Tech. To me, and we talked about this in the previous shows, Scotty, they have to be kind of a transition team with them being so young and having to, not be real comfortable in the offensive half-court sets to this point. It seems to me they're starting to buy in. Jalen Harris made a note of, we're understanding that defense turns into offense. Is that something that you're also starting to see them buy in even more so on the defensive side? Because, there was a stretch there. They didn't play the type of defense that they started out with there in that period where they lost, I believe, 2 out of 3 or 2 out of 4, and a lot of them were at home.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see the buy-in. And I think some of it, like Mike said, and I know a lot of people kind of took it the wrong way when I tweeted my story out yesterday. Like, with such a young team, like, it's going to take a little bit of time to, I guess, just kind of settle in and understand all, like, the various aspects of playing pressure defense. And you have to communicate. You have to be in the right spots. You have to be in a good defensive stance, play with active hands. And I think, like, the most important thing, like I said, is you have to communicate. And I think with a young team, sometimes you can, I guess, just act independently instead of trying to help out the guy next to you, because you're worried a little bit about not, like, if you make a mistake, you can come off the floor. So you're worried a little bit more about you. But I think the team communicates and just continues to play connected defense. I think Arkansas might could make a run this next 5 games. Like, this is their chance, I think, to kind of make up some ground. And it is, like I said yesterday, it doesn't happen overnight. What they do with their pressure defense, it takes a little bit of time. Like you said, once it clicks, like, it is a thing of beauty. And the only reason Arkansas was in that game on Saturday was because of its defense, especially in the first half, forcing so many turnovers. You got contributions from a lot of different guys, and that was with your star player on the bench. So that was a little bit encouraging. That's what I think what Mike was trying to drive home yesterday.
Talking with Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette here live on the Hill Pat Jenkins Sports Talk. Talking fast as 40 Keys as Arkansas hosts the Georgia Bulldogs tonight, 6 p.m. on ESPNU, live from Bud Walton Arena. You talk about the system, and I've told people out and about town, I get it, bombarded with questions, social media, and Mike's system, the system that Arkansas plays, it's not an easy system, Scotty, especially for a young basketball team. You mentioned it, they're starting to figure it out. This type of system takes a while, and I mean, are you kind of surprised by the expectation that's so high for this young team by this fan base so soon in their careers?
Yeah, I think it's also a little bit because I think there's a little bit of restlessness just because of the way football season ended. I think, like, maybe even if like Arkansas had won just like a few more games and didn't lose, maybe in such embarrassing and historically bad fashion last fall, like, there would be a little bit more patience with the young team. Because, I mean, this team, like, this is among the youngest teams in the country, and it's going to take, like Mike said, and I guess I'm beating us to death, but like, it is going to take time. I think we have to be realistic with this team. Like, it's a young group, and it's not like the recruiting class itself was had some pretty high expectations. You had one guy leave, but I mean, it's not, the class wasn't, I guess, up there with the classes obviously that Duke and Kentucky and Kansas, those schools bring in. So there's, like, this team's kind of learning on the go, and you're taking your lumps along the way. And at some point, though, I think it's going to start clicking. In the last two games, I think you've kind of seen some growth with a young team, and they've still obviously got some problems figuring out what they're doing late in games. So I think, especially from a defensive standpoint, like, they're starting to figure it out a little bit, and obviously the drop off in competition a little bit, especially like the opposing team's offenses haven't been stellar the last couple of games, but your defense is kind of pouncing on some lesser efficient offenses, and I think that's a plus considering how rough the stretch was the previous 3 games. So
last question.
Just got to be patient. Just got to be patient a little bit, I think.
Got about a minute left, Scotty. And the last question I want to ask you is, how big is the matchup, in your opinion? I think it's the biggest matchup tonight, Nicholas Claxton and Daniel Gafford. I'm of the belief whoever can impose their will in the paint, both offensively and defensively, that team will have the advantage. Are you of the belief, the same way I am, that this is the biggest matchup in tonight's ball game in the bud?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty important one because Claxton is the guy that can step at 6'11" is more than capable of stepping away from the rim, drawing his defender out, and I guess creating some more space for Georgia's offense for teammates to cut, slash to the basket, and backdoor cuts and things like that. Arkansas has been a little bit susceptible to some backdoor cuts on some screening action and things like that. So that is going to be a pretty important matchup, I think. And another one is just Arkansas's guards against Georgia's guards. And
Right.
if Arkansas can turn Georgia's guards over, then I think Arkansas is going to be in a pretty good spot because, like I said, Georgia's a little bit turnover prone. And I read a quote yesterday from Tom Crean after the Texas game. He said that sometimes Georgia's guards have a tendency to make passes that even Matt Ryan and Peyton Manning would make in such tight windows. So they struggle a little bit with that. And if Arkansas, deflections are always a big thing, and Mike and his staff track that. That just kind of tells you how active Arkansas' defense is. So I think if those deflection numbers and the turnover numbers can go in Arkansas's favor, they've got a great shot tonight.
Well, as always, my man, I'll catch up with you this evening. You have a blessed day. And, Scotty, thanks for the fastest 40 updates. And always, thanks for taking time out on the hill, my brother.
Yeah, you bet. I'll see you guys tonight.
That was Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette with the fastest 40 keys for tonight's ball game. Arkansas hosts the Georgia Bulldogs. Tip-off 6 p.m. on the ESPNU network. If you're not going to the game, you can catch it on the ESPNU. Big ball game for Coach Anderson and the Razorbacks, looking to get their third conference win to bring their conference slate to 3-4, which is something I think heading down the stretch. And you got LSU coming up, Demetrius, on the road this week. I believe Mississippi State. And it just gets tougher and tougher each and every week out for this young basketball team. I call them the Piglets until they cut their teeth. They're going to be the Piglets to me. They're Razorbacks, but Razorback Piglets, we'll just put it that way. But we also caught up with one of those Razorback Piglets, I should say. Jalen Harris, starting point guard here at the University of Arkansas, met up with the media, and this is what he had to say about protecting the bud.
What up?
There we go. Question from Jay.
Hey, Jalen, obviously you guys have been involved in a lot of close games, and some like Indiana you've won, but you've lost several too. With kind of what's going on with the late game execution, and what was the deal on Saturday? What were you guys looking to do there, and how do you think it? Obviously it didn't turn out like you wanted. Just what do you think you guys got to do to get better at those situations?
Obviously we're gonna work on it each and every day at practice, knowing how many close games we've been in. But at the end of the game on Saturday, we was trying to go inside the Dan to see if we can get a quick two. He was open. I just couldn't get it to him when I seen it. So I tried to get it to the best shooter on the court, Hands, and Isaiah Joe, but he couldn't get a clean shot off. So.
That deal where the defender, do you remember who was on you, and was it just a deal where he was making it tough for you to get an entry pass to Daniel, or how come you couldn't get him the ball?
The help side, the guy that was guarding Keyshawn I felt like if I would have threw it, he would have stole it. But if I would have got it inside of Dan, we would have extended the game, see if they could have made free throws. If not, we felt like we would have had a better chance of winning.
I don't think on the season Georgia's been a real good three-point shooting team. They hit 12 out of 17 against Texas. I don't know if you watched that film yet. And, of course, Texas Tech was struggling on threes, but they
Welcome back. It's our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. We come to you each every day live here on KDSJ 479 from 1 to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. And real quick, want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, it's located at 735 South Shiloh Drive in Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. And we want to come in with a little fastest 40 talk and talk a little recruiting. And what better way to do that than with our buddy of AR Hoops, also of Hogville.net, Kevin McPherson. Kevin, welcome back to the Hill, my man.
Good to be with you, Pat.
Talk a little bit about tonight's ball game. This is a big one, Kevin. Arkansas just coming off a very, tough road loss in Lubbock versus Texas Tech, 67-64. Had a chance to win that game there at the end, but unfortunately wasn't able to pull that out. Kevin, talk about tonight's game keys and what Arkansas must do to get that third SEC victory.
Yeah, well, Georgia wants to run. That's what Tom Crean does. It's his first year there, and they want to play an up-tempo brand. We saw they just almost hung 100 on Texas in a big win in the Big 12 SEC Challenge at their home court over the weekend. And they've had ups and downs. They've had games where they've struggled to score the ball. They've had games where they've been able to put some points on the board. And I think it plays right into what Arkansas does. They want to run and get the score, get the possessions up, and get the game to a fast-paced tempo at home. And I think Georgia suffered so much with turnovers, and I think that's, if they try to run with Arkansas, I think it's a recipe for Arkansas getting back on track. And, yeah, they've lost 5 of 6, but, if they win tonight, that's two back-to-back SEC wins. Granted, both of those against teams at home that are in the bottom third of the league, but you got to start somewhere.
When you look at this team over the last 2 to 3 games, it's quite evident. They're starting to figure it out, Kevin, on the defensive end. Multiple 20 games of 20-plus turnovers versus Missouri and then Texas Tech all in the same week. This team has to, in my opinion, be a transition team because they are so young. And, it's going to take some time to learn that half-court, those half-court sets when teams, really are able to stop the transition. But talk about just how important that has to be that they continue to, turn that offense into defense.
Right. I mean, they were able to do that with some relative success against Missouri at home. That game started slow for Arkansas. The first 10 minutes were ugly. They got down in that game, and the last 30 looked like old vintage 40 minutes of hell, or the fastest 40, whatever you want to call it. They forced a lot of turnovers. They scored in transition, and they really won that game that way. And they've got to figure out how to do that. And again, I think Georgia, the way they play, plays into that. And you're right, Pat. So much about for a young team is making things easy. And what better way to get easy baskets than in transition after playing some good defense? And defense has been this team's strong suit. I know there was a 3-game stretch there where they gave up a lot of points and some big losses. But overall, this team has played well at that end. And the more they can create turnovers, turn it into easy offense, the more it's going to help a team that has struggled on that offensive end, like you said, in the half court.
When I look at this team, I also look at the top 10 teams in the country, and they have multiple lineups where they're playing anywhere from 7 to 9 kids, 12 minutes to about 29 or 30 minutes. Arkansas has done quite the same thing, as they have 9 guys anywhere from 13 to 30 minutes. Talk about that. That shows a lot of trust. And it talks and also exemplifies the depth Coach Anderson talked about in the preseason, and also we hear each and every week the depth. Well, the minutes have to didn't that kind of equate to the belief that Coach has in the bench? Yeah,
that's just it. I mean, Arkansas's bench is not as deep as it usually has been, and then Jordan Phillips leaves, so that's one less man. And I think guys are coming off the bench and helping. The problem is you really haven't had solid bench play consistently from all 4 of the guys in that second rotation. Right. Usually it's 1 or 2 of them that's pitching in. So, yeah, the minutes are predicated on what you can do to help the team. We've seen the second unit come in and do some good things, but we also see some slippage in the score, whether Arkansas, they come in and Arkansas's down 2 or 3 points and maybe that stretches to 8 really fast. I think because this team's better defensively, especially when that second unit comes on, they find they struggle to score sometimes. So, yeah, the minutes are going to be driven by what that second unit can bring.
I don't want to talk about the youth, but I do want to talk about experience. And what I mean by that is it takes time, in your opinion, don't you think, Kevin, to play the type of basketball, both on the offensive and defensive ends that, Coach Anderson wants to play. I mean, it's not something that you can walk in as a true freshman and instantly pick up. Talk about that, from your vantage point, and just – I know they catch a lot of flack from the fans, but how unrealistic sometimes can the expectations be at Arkansas for this young team?
Yeah, well, here's what fans see. Fans see the fact that you've got young teams. You got college basketball teams are younger and younger because of one and done and because of guys transferring, so you're constantly reshaping the program. But what they don't recognize is the fact that even then, most teams still have 4 or 5 guys that have been through the trenches and been through league play.
Right.
They've been through all that. Arkansas really was starting over. I mean, outside of Dan Gabbard, even Adriel Bailey and Gabe Osaboyan, those guys really haven't had any meaningful run up until this season. And so you're basically turned over a complete roster. So the youth factor, I think, is valid. And you're right. This system is not one you're going to walk into, just like any other good system that where there's success. If you're starting from scratch, you're going to hit some bumps and bruises. You look at the SEC. I mean, this is Tom Crean's first Georgia team, but they've got veteran players that have done this, more so than Arkansas. Even though they're still figuring out a new system themselves, at least they've been through the SEC wars and know what it means. Some of these young men, it's going to be their first. I know they've already played a few SEC games, but they're still that first year going through the whole thing. Every game presents something they haven't been through before. So I think fans do need to be patient there. Pat, you make a great point.
Area I think Arkansas must get better at is a little bit more size inside. When you talk on the recruiting front, guys like Raymond Hawkins, 6'10" post there at Finley Prep, same school that produced Reggie Chaney, freshman forward here at Arkansas. Talk about the recruiting side. There's a new guard Arkansas has really started to reach out to. Could you give us some of those names as to who we need to look out for?
Yeah, you name one of them. Raymond Hawkins, a 6'9", 6'10" kid out of Finley Prep. He really likes Scotty Thurman, and he likes the Razorbacks. He's got a good offer list. I mean, Mississippi State, DePaul, St. John's, Kansas State, and UNLV, Nevada. I mean, he's got a good list of schools already on him, and Arkansas is definitely a school he says he wants to take a visit to after his high school season. Mohamedou Diawara, that's another 6'10" player. With a 7'3" wingspan, he loves Arkansas, and the Hog coaches are trying to work it out to go watch him play. And he's an ESPN 4-star, so a guy that he's got some good offers himself. Penn State, Georgia Tech, some really good mid-major offers from some of the better mid-major teams. And the guards you're talking about, Chance Robinson, 6-foot guard out of Grambling, Louisiana, plays at Lincoln Prep down there. He's an a national 4-star guard. He's in the top 150, so he's right there on the cusp. But he's a 4-star, and he's going to take an unofficial visit on February 23rd for Arkansas against Texas A&M. So, Javion Hamlet's a JUCO guard Arkansas is looking at now, a lefty, who's shooting the lights out of the ball. I mean, over 60% from the field, over almost 48% from three, 85% from the free throw line. If you look at what Arkansas needs, a 6'3" guy that can, score and at that efficient kind of a clip, especially from the perimeter at the free throw line, that could really help a team next year. And he's not a freshman, So, Arkansas is looking at big men and guards, not only for next year but down the line.
Talking with Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops, also of Hogville.net, covers all of Razorback recruiting and Fastest 40. You can read all his articles on WholeHogSports.com. But I want to talk to you about tonight, and this is the last question. Got about a minute. If there's one matchup that you consider to be the biggest matchup in this ball game, Arkansas versus Georgia, what's that matchup and why?
Well, if you're talking about backcourt versus backcourt, if Arkansas can get into its press, I think the backcourts are the biggest matchup because I think Arkansas can turn this team over and get some easy scores. If we're talking about individuals, you look at Dan Gafford and Claxton. Both of these guys are 6'10 plus, both athletic, both long and do a lot of things. I don't know how much they're going to be matched up on each other. Claxton likes to play a lot away from the basket, but I'm going to be watching both big men to see who has more impact.
Well, as always, my man, are you going to be making the trip up to tonight's game?
I'm about to shove off right now, Pat. I'm going to see you here shortly. I look forward to it.
All right, well, you have a safe trip, and I look forward to having fellowship as we always have to have a bite to eat before we go up to have our seats. But thanks for taking time out on the hill, my brother.
Good to be with you, Pat. See you tonight.
That was Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops, also of Hogville.net. Does all the basketball and recruiting coverage for Hogville.net. But we caught up as we're going to take a break real quick with former Arkansas defensive end, now starting defensive end for the New England Patriots, Trey Flowers. Caught up with him at Media Day yesterday, and there's some things that Trey just wants you guys to remember. There's a certain song, and here's some of the words that he had to say.
Give a cheer, rah-rah. Never fear, rah-rah. Arkansas will never yield. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Pig suey, that's it. Yeah. hit that line, keep on going. Move that ball right down the field. Give a cheer, rah-rah. Never fear, rah-rah. Arkansas will never yield. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, you heard it. He still he still hadn't forgot the old hit that line song, do you think?
Nah, he still seemed like he got his raceback blood still bleeding through him.
When you, from a recruiting standpoint, how does this help Chad Morris when you're at the media day and guys from Arkansas are featured and considered really one of the top defensive linemen on what is considered to be the greatest franchise program in the NFL, the Patriots? How does that help Coach Chad Morris when he's out in these homes talking to, trying to convince these 17, 18-year-old kids to, make Arkansas a destination?
I think it's huge. I mean, not only Trey Flowers, but you have Dietrich Wise out there. That's also an additional defensive player that really contributes to the team. So I think it's a big component to what Chad Morris can do to sell the program.
Well, if you want to call us and get, chime in, want to chime in about our guest, any basketball, football, anything that you might have on your mind, you want to talk Razorback Recruit or in the SEC, you can talk to me and Demetrius by reaching out and contacting us here at 479-601-7400. That'll get you in. We got a couple minutes before we close this thing out. So for those that want to chime in with us on OTH, you can do so. That's the number, 479-601-7400. Will get you in. Recruiting weekend. I don't think all Arkansas has anybody in this weekend, but National Signing Day roughly about a little over a week away, Demetrius.
That's huge. Could you kind of go over the names that haven't signed that letter of intent yet?
Arkansas still will be hoping to sign 2019 running back from Phoenix City Central High School out of Phoenix City, Alabama, Monte Spivey. They're expecting him. He'll be signing, I believe, at 8:30 a.m. next Wednesday. Also, to Arkansas, still holding out to see what Adonis Ote, a four-star commitment out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Blackman High School, teammates with Trey Knox. He'll be also signing on Wednesday signing day. Like Lakia Henry, whom Arkansas met with, the entire coach staff, Coach Chavis, and the staff met, hadn't been home with Lakia last night. He is going to be taking an official visit to Texas. Was at Ole Miss this past weekend. We'll be signing also on signing day, and they're pretty much feeling pretty good about getting the signatures Wednesday of Hudson Henry, Traylon Burks, just to name a few. And also, there could be some surprises. You just never know in the recruiting with another name. Blake Johnson was announced that he's going to go to the transfer portal. That opens up another scholarship for the University of Arkansas. They could sign 30, or I guess that's going to remain to be seen. Will they take that into the 20 class? But just to name a few names, and they're going to be signing also to Jalen Catalon, who committed to Arkansas a little over a week and a half ago. He'll also sign on National Signing Day. So those are the ones that Arkansas is expected to ink. I know it's still up in the air for Monte, I believe, in Adonis Ote. I think those two guys will, and Lakia Henry. I really feel good about Arkansas with all three come National Signing Day next Wednesday. But, that's what happens when you're recruiting good players at other schools like Ole Miss, Texas. Those schools are really inquiring about also. It shows that your evaluation process is very, very good, don't you think, Demetrius?
Definitely. I think it really does speak highly of this recruiting staff that we have. You're a big proponent in how they're doing. You said this is one of the best group of recruiters that Arkansas has probably seen since their tenure of the 5-star caliber recruiting ranking. So I'm really excited. I really want to see what he does in year 2. Because I think this year what's really going to determine the success of the recruiting class for next year is the steps that he makes winning games this year. I think he still can go in and sell playing time, but I think this year he's going to have to add some wins to that column.
And not to mention, I think that addition of who is going to be added to the defensive line as the defensive line coach. I think if you get Brick Haley or Miriam Hobby, I think those two guys, with both guys having experience and coached in the SEC, have a lot of deep Southern ties and are known as renowned recruiters throughout college football. It's going to be real imperative and real important who you get to fill that spot. I'm going to say it again, not to be racist or anything, but I think it needs to be an African-American in that position. We're recruiting Southern athletes, people. You got to get somebody that, as Nolan said it before, looks like them and sometimes can talk like them and has been through some of their walks of life. That's just my own personal opinion. That's all it is. Not any bad intent, but that's just how I think this hire needs to happen, because you are dealing with the SEC, the elite conference in the country. And I think that's going to wrap it up. We're going to give a thank you to our special guest, Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Also to Kevin McPherson of AR Hoops and Hogville.net. Once again, our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates with an office location in Fayetteville, also to an office location in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, located at 735 South Shiloh Drive in Locomotion, just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. And if you'd like to sponsor us here on The Hill, you can do so. You can reach out to us and get in touch with us, 601-7400, area code 479. You can also hit us up on our Facebook page, On The Hill Sports Talk, our iHeart, in that true, Demetrius? iHeart, and also to our Twitter page, On The Hill with Pat Jenkins. You can hit us up on our Twitter page or my Twitter page at Pat Jenkins 4. But until tomorrow, we'll have a lot of audio from tonight's ball game, Arkansas versus Georgia. That tips off at 6 p.m. on ESPNU for those that want to watch it on TV and you can't make it to the Bud tonight. It's On The Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one. Woo pig.